The stars were beautiful that night. Captain stood on the bridge of the UES Perseverance and watched them through the main window. Her ship was carrying 2,400 people to a new world. Farmers, teachers, doctors, children, all of them dreaming of a fresh start on 442b. The Perseverance was not a warship. It was a freighter, a big, slow, peaceful ship full of hope. Turned to her first officer, David. "How long until we reach the colony?" "3 more jumps, Captain, about 6 days. Nodded and allowed herself a small smile. 6 days. Then her people would have a new home. They would build cities, plant crops, raise families. It was a good dream. The dream died 30 seconds later. The first warning came from the sensor officer, a young woman named Private Tours. Her voice was calm at first, then it cracked with fear. "Captain, I'm picking up multiple contacts. They just appeared out of nowhere. Big ships, 12 of them." Blood turned cold. She knew those ship signatures. Everyone in the human fleet knew them. They were an old species. They had ruled the galaxy for 10,000 years before humans even learned to make fire. They were tall and thin, with skin and eyes like black stones. They believed they were the masters of all life, and they hated humans. For the past 50 years they had been killing human ships. They called it cleansing. They said humans were vermin, pests that needed to be removed from the galaxy. No human ship had ever survived an encounter with them. "All hands to battle stations," ordered, but even as she said it, she knew it was useless. The Perseverance had no weapons. They were a civilian ship. The warships surrounded them in a perfect circle. Each one was 3 times the size of the Perseverance. Their hulls were black and covered with weapons. They looked like death itself. Then the main screen flickered. A face appeared. It was an admiral. His skin was dark, almost black. His eyes held nothing but contempt. When he spoke, his voice was like ice. "Human vessel, I am Admiral and of the Dominion. You have entered space that belongs to us. All space belongs to us. Your kind is not welcome in this galaxy." Stepped forward. Her heart was pounding, but she kept her voice steady. "We are a civilian ship. We carry no weapons. We have families aboard. Children, please let us pass." Admiral and laughed. It was not a pleasant sound. "Children? Good. Then they will learn early what happens to species that forget their place." "What do you want from us?" The Admiral smiled. It was the smile of a predator. "I want nothing from you, human. You have nothing worth taking, but I will give you something. A lesson. A message for your entire pathetic species." Felt a terrible dread growing in her stomach. What message? "Death," and said simply. "But not quick death. That would be too kind. You will drift. You will suffer. You will die slowly in the cold and the dark. And when your people find your frozen corpses, they will know the cost of reaching beyond their station." Before could respond, the Admiral raised his hand. "Activate the deadlight pulse." Every light on the Perseverance went out. Was thrown to the floor as the ship shook violently. She heard screaming. Sparks flew from every console. The engines died. The life support systems made a horrible grinding noise and then went silent. The artificial gravity flickered and almost failed. When the shaking stopped, pulled herself up in the darkness. Emergency chemical lights slowly came on. They gave off a weak green glow. In that glow, she saw the destruction. Every screen was dead. Every computer was fried. The navigation systems, the communications, the weapons, the engines. Everything that used electricity was destroyed. The deadlight pulse had killed their ship completely. David was bleeding from a cut on his forehead. "Captain, we're dead in space. Everything is gone. Life support is failing. We have maybe 48 hours of air left." Looked around at her crew. Some were injured, all were terrified. In the distance, she could hear children crying. The main screen flickered one last time. Admiral N's face appeared, distorted by static. "Drift in silence, mammals. Let the void teach you the price of reaching beyond your station. When we return in one cycle, we will collect your corpse and display it as a trophy. Farewell, Captain. I hope your death is long and painful." The screen went black. Through the window, watched the fleet turn and jump away. They were heading toward their prime. They were so confident that the humans would die, so certain of their victory. Stood in the darkness of her dead ship. Around her, people were crying. Some were praying. The air was already getting cold. But was not crying. She was not praying, she was thinking. They had made a mistake. They thought they understood humans. They thought humans were soft and weak. They thought humans would just lie down and die. They were wrong. Turned to her crew. Her voice cut through the darkness like a blade. "Listen to me, all of you. They think they killed us. They think we will float here and die. But they forgot something important about humans." David looked up at her. "What's that, Captain?" His eyes were hard as steel. "We don't die easy. And when someone tries to kill us, we don't forget. We don't forgive. Get me a count of all survivors. Find out what still works on this ship. Wake up every engineer, every scientist, every person who has ever fixed a machine." She looked out the window at the stars. Somewhere out there was Prime. They want to teach us a lesson," said quietly. "Instead, we're going to teach them one." The first count came back after 6 hours. Of the 2,400 people on the Perseverance, 1,847 survived the attack. The rest died from the initial impact, from falling equipment, from electrical fires that burned quick and hot before the oxygen ran out in those sections. Captain read the numbers on a paper list. Paper. They were reduced to paper now. Every computer was dead. Every tablet was fried. The deadlight pulse had destroyed anything with a circuit. But paper still worked. Pencils still worked. Human brains still worked. The survivors gathered in the main cargo bay. It was the largest open space on the ship, and the chemical emergency lights made it bright enough to see. Stood on a cargo container and looked down at her people. She saw fear in their eyes. She saw grief. Some held children close. Others held each other. "I won't lie to you," said. "Our situation is bad, very bad. Life support is failing. The engines are dead. They think we will die here in the darkness." A man in the crowd called out, "Then we're finished. We should make peace with our gods." Shook her head. "No, we are not finished. They made a mistake. They think humans are like other species in the galaxy, specialists, creatures who know how to do one thing and nothing else." She paused and let her words sink in. "But that's not what humans are. We come from Earth, a planet with deserts and ice, with storms and earthquakes, with predators and poison. We survived all of it. Do you know why? Because we adapt. We learn. Every single one of you knows how to do more than one thing. That is our greatest strength." Chief Engineer Cole pushed through the crowd. He was a big man with dark skin and hands rough from years of work. "Captain, I've done a full assessment. The main systems are gone, completely gone, but we still have raw materials, we still have tools, and we still have the cargo." Nodded. "Tell them about the cargo." Turned to face the crowd. This ship was carrying terraforming equipment, machines designed to transform dead planets into living worlds. We have atmospheric processors. We have geological. We have 3 fusion cores, each one powerful enough to heat an entire planet. An old woman raised her hand. Her name was Dr. Sarah, and she had been a physicist for 40 years. "The geological, those are designed to trigger controlled earthquakes, to break apart rock and release gases from underground." "That's right," said. Doctor's eyes grew wide. "If we modified them, if we increased their power and focused their energy, they could do more than break rock. They could destabilize a planet's core itself." The crowd went silent. People looked at each other. They understood what she was saying. A young man stepped forward. He was barely 20 years old, but his eyes were sharp. His name was Private James, and before joining the colonial program, he had served in the Earth Defense Force. "I used to work in weapons development. I know how to make things that hurt. If we can get power to I can make them into a weapon." Another person raised their hand, then another, then more. A retired ship captain who knew navigation, a demolitions expert who now worked as a baker, a teenager named who was a mathematics genius and could calculate orbital paths in her head, a doctor who understood biology and chemistry, a miner who knew explosives, a farmer who understood mechanics. Watched as her people transformed before her eyes. They were no longer frightened refugees. They were becoming something else, something dangerous. Over the next 73 days, the humans worked. They had no computers, so they did calculations by hand, covered entire walls with numbers. Her equations grew more complex every day. When someone asked how she could be so accurate, she smiled and said, "Humans put men on the moon with less computing power than a modern toaster. This is what we do." Cole and his engineers rewired the ship manually. They connected the atmospheric processors to the hull vents. By superheating gas and releasing it in controlled bursts, they created basic propulsion. It was slow. It was ugly, but it worked. Doctor and James worked on the geological. They stripped them down and rebuilt them. They increased the power. They focused the energy. When they were finished, they had created something terrible. They called it the hammer. The hammer could send resonance waves deep into a planet. It could shake the very core of a world. It could trigger earthquakes and volcanic eruptions on a global scale. It was not a weapon that killed people. It was a weapon that killed planets. The three fusion cores were connected together. The engineering team spent weeks building a power system that could feed the hammer. The work was dangerous. 2 people died in accidents. Their names were added to a growing list on the cargo bay wall. Food was rationed. Water was recycled. People slept in shifts to conserve heat. The temperature inside the ship dropped to near freezing. Humans huddled together under blankets and shared body warmth. But they did not stop working. They could not stop. On day 73, Cole came to with a report. His face was exhausted but proud. "Captain, it's done. The ship is no longer a ship. It's a weapon now, the most powerful weapon humans have ever built." Looked at the transformed Perseverance. It was ugly and patched together with wire and metal plates. It looked like a monster. "Set a course," said Prime. David looked at her with wide eyes. "Captain, you're not seriously considering. You can't mean to." His voice was hard. "They attacked us without warning. They killed 553 of our people. They left us to die in the dark. They did this because they think we are weak. They think we are prey." She turned to face her crew. Every person on the ship was watching her. "It's time to show them what prey can become when you corner it." The journey to Prime would take 4 months. 4 months of drifting through the cold emptiness of space in a ship that was barely alive. 4 months of darkness, of hunger, of fear. 4 months that would test every survivor to their breaking point. The Perseverance moved slowly. The makeshift engines pushed the ship forward at a fraction of normal speed, had calculated the trajectory perfectly. Every burn, every course correction, every adjustment, all written by hand on sheets of paper that were now more valuable than gold. Inside the ship, life became a careful routine of survival. The life support systems worked at minimum power. There was enough oxygen to breathe, but the air was thin. People got tired quickly. They spoke in short sentences to save breath. The temperature stayed just above freezing. Frost formed on the walls and had to be scraped off every morning. Food was measured by the gram. Each person received exactly enough calories to survive and nothing more. The water recycling system worked, but the water tasted strange. Nobody complained. They were too hungry to complain. Captain walked through the ship every day. She visited every section. She spoke to every person. She learned their names, their stories, their fears. She held children and told them everything would be okay. She sat with dying crew members and held their hands. 18 people died during the voyage. Some died from the cold. Their bodies simply gave up during sleep. Others died from injuries that never healed properly. One woman died giving birth. Her baby survived. They named him Hope. Each death was recorded. Each name was written on the wall of the cargo bay. The wall grew longer every week. It became a shrine. People would stand before it in silence, remembering the fallen. Stood before that wall one night. David found her there, her fingers tracing the names. "Captain," he said quietly, "you should rest." Did not turn around. "I know all of them, David, every single name. Maria Santos was a teacher. She was going to start a school on the new colony. Thomas Wright was a farmer. He had plans for a vineyard. Little Michael was only 6 years old, 6 years old." Her voice cracked, but she forced herself to continue. "They took them. Not in battle, not in war. They killed them because they thought it would be amusing, because they wanted to send a message." David stood beside her. "We could still stop. We could change course, find a human colony, report what happened and let the military handle it." Shook her head. "The military cannot help us. Earth is too far away. And even if they came, what would they do? They are too powerful. They would destroy our fleets like they destroyed us. No, David, this ends here, with us." On the 62nd day of the voyage, they encountered a patrol. It was a small ship, a scout vessel with a crew of perhaps 20. It appeared on their sensors like a ghost. They must have been surprised to see the Perseverance still moving, surprised to see humans still alive. The scout ship came close. Too close, could see it through the window, sleek and black like a knife made of shadow. A transmission came through. The voice was speaking in broken human language. "Human vessel, you should be dead. How are you still functioning?" Grabbed the radio. It was a simple device built from salvaged parts. It could only transmit short range, but that was enough. "This is Captain of the UES Perseverance. We are not dead. We are coming." The laughed. "Coming where, human? Your ship is broken. You are dying. What can you possibly do?" Smiled, though the alien could not see it. "Tell your admiral something for me. Tell him that the mammals are not finished. Tell him that the Perseverance endures. And tell him that we are coming to Prime. We will be there in 2 months. He should prepare a welcome." More laughter from the scout. "You are insane. Your species is truly mad. Very well, human, I will deliver your message. The Admiral will find it amusing before he orders your final destruction." The scout ship turned and jumped away, watched it disappear into the stars. David looked at her with concern. "You just told them we're coming. They'll be waiting for us." "Yes," agreed. "They will, but they won't understand what they're waiting for. They see a broken freighter, a dying ship full of dead mammals. They do not see what we have become." She turned and walked back into the ship. The cold bit at her skin. Her breath formed clouds in the air, but inside her chest a fire was burning, a fire that would not go out until Prime was ash. The next 2 months passed slowly. More people died. The survivors grew thin and weak, but they did not stop. They could not stop. They had come too far. Made her final calculations. The course was set. The trajectory was perfect. Cole ran final tests on the hammer. The weapon was ready. 3 fusion cores connected together, feeding power to a device that could shake worlds. Doctor prepared the targeting systems. It was all manual now, all done by human hands and human eyes, but it would work, she was certain. On the final day of the voyage, the Perseverance entered the system. Stood on the bridge. Through the window she could see Prime. It was a beautiful planet, blue and green, with white clouds swirling across its surface. 8 billion lived on that world. 8 billion souls who had never questioned their place as masters of the galaxy. Alarms began to sound. The HAD detected them. "Multiple contacts," Torres reported. "Warships, lots of them, they're moving to intercept." Sat down in her captain's chair. Her hands were steady. Her heart was calm. "Let them come," she said. "It's too late to stop us now." Admiral and stood on the bridge of his flagship and stared at the screen. His black eyes were wide. His hands trembled slightly. For the first time in his 300 years of life, he felt something unfamiliar. Fear. "That is impossible," he whispered. "I killed that ship. I watched it die." His second officer, a younger named Al, looked at the readings. "The signature matches, Admiral. It is the human freighter, the Perseverance. It is heading directly for our." Howland demanded. "The deadlight pulse destroyed everything, every system, every circuit. They should have frozen to death within days." Al had no answer. None of them did. The fleet moved to intercept. 50 warships, the pride of the Dominion, formed a wall between the approaching human vessel and Prime. Each one was armed with enough firepower to reduce a city to ash. But as the Perseverance came closer, the fleet's sensors detected something strange. The human ship had been modified, changed. What was once a simple freighter now bristled with strange equipment. Fusion cores glowed with terrible energy. Something massive hung beneath the hull, something that pulsed with power. Al studied the readings. His face went pale. "Admiral, there is a device attached to their ship. I do not recognize its design, but the energy readings are. They are beyond anything I have ever seen." And leaned forward. "What kind of device?" "I believe," Al said slowly, "it is some kind of weapon, a very large weapon. The power output suggests it could affect geological structures, tectonic plates, perhaps even planetary cores." The bridge went silent. Everyone understood what that meant. The humans had turned their terraforming equipment into a planet killer, and they had aimed it at Prime. "Destroy them," and ordered, "now, before they get any closer." Al hesitated. "Admiral, if we destroy their ship while the weapon is active, the resulting explosion could still reach our atmosphere. The fusion cores alone would cause massive damage, and if the weapon detonates—" "What are you saying?" "I am saying that shooting them down might kill our planet anyway." And felt the fear grow stronger. He pushed it down. He was a warrior. He had conquered a dozen worlds. He would not be defeated by mammals in a broken ship. "Open a channel," he commanded. "I will speak to them." The screen flickered. Captain appeared. She looked thin, weak. Her face was hollow and her eyes had dark circles under them. But when she smiled, there was nothing weak about it. "Admiral N," she said, "you look surprised to see me." "You should be dead, human." "Yes, I should be. 53 of my people are. They died because of you, because you wanted to send a message." His voice was calm, but there was steel beneath it. "Well, Admiral, I have a message for you too." And tried to sound confident. "You cannot win this, Captain. You are one ship against 50. Even if you reach our planet, what then? You will die. Your weapon will be destroyed. This changes nothing." Laughed. It was not a pleasant sound. "You still do not understand, do you? You looked at us and saw vermin, prey, soft creatures that would lie down and die. But we are not prey, Admiral. We never were." She stood up from her chair. Behind her they could see the human crew, thin, tired but standing, all of them standing. "We come from a planet that tried to kill us every day. Ice ages, plagues, predators, volcanoes, we survived them all. We did not just survive, we conquered. We took every weapon nature threw at us and we turned it against our enemies. That is what humans do, Admiral. We adapt, we overcome, we win." And felt his confidence slipping. "This is madness. You cannot destroy our entire planet, billions of lives." "You killed 553 of mine," replied. "Children, Admiral, you killed children. You did it because you thought it would be funny, because you wanted to teach us our place." Her eyes hardened. "Now I will teach you yours." The channel went dead. On Prime, panic was spreading. The High Council had been summoned for an emergency session. 12 ancient, the rulers of an empire that had lasted 10,000 years, sat around a table and watched their doom approach. "We must negotiate," one of them said. "Offer the humans something, anything." "They are animals," another replied. "You do not negotiate with animals." Admiral N's voice came over the speakers. "The human ship is not slowing down. It will be in firing range within 2 hours." The council argued. Some wanted to attack, some wanted to surrender, some wanted to evacuate the planet, but there was no time, there was never enough time. Finally, they agreed to attempt contact. A message was sent to the Perseverance, an offer of negotiation. Received the message. She read it aloud to her crew. "The High Council wishes to discuss terms for peace. They are willing to offer concessions in exchange for standing down." David looked at her. "What kind of concessions?" Continued reading. "They offer to release all human prisoners held in their territory. They offer to cease hostilities against human vessels. They offer payment for damages." The crew was silent, then Cole spoke up. "What about justice? What about the dead?" Nodded. "I have conditions of my own." She picked up the radio. "Council, I have received your message. Here are my terms. First, immediate end to all attacks against humanity. Second, payment for every human killed in your cleansing operations. Third, recognition of human territory and sovereignty. Fourth, a formal apology broadcast across the galaxy admitting your crimes." She paused. "You have 1 hour to respond." The hour passed slowly. On Prime, the council debated. Some argued for acceptance. Others refused to apologize to lower species. Pride and fear fought a bitter battle. In the end, pride won. The council refused the terms. They believed the humans were bluffing. They believed no species would actually destroy an entire planet. It was unthinkable, monstrous. They forgot that they themselves had done exactly that to 3 human colonies over the past 50 years. When the hour ended, received their response. A refusal, a demand that she surrender or be destroyed. She read the message. Then she crumpled the paper and dropped it on the floor. "They chose," she said quietly. "They could have stopped this. They could have said yes, but their pride would not let them." She turned to Cole. "Activate the hammer." The hammer hummed to life. Deep inside the modified Perseverance, 3 fusion cores poured their energy into a device that should not exist. A weapon built from farming equipment. A planet killer made by desperate survivors in the darkness of space. Stood on the bridge and watched Prime grow larger in the window. It was beautiful. Blue oceans, green continents, white clouds drifting peacefully across the surface. 8 billion lives going about their daily business, unaware that their world was about to end. "The weapon is fully charged," Cole reported. His voice was heavy. "We are in range." Closed her eyes for a moment. She thought about the wall of names in the cargo bay. 53 dead, children who would never grow up, mothers who would never see their families again. Good people killed for sport by an empire that saw them as nothing. She opened her eyes. Fire. The hammer activated. A beam of invisible energy shot from the Perseverance toward the planet below. It did not burn. It did not explode. It passed through the atmosphere and struck the surface, then continued downward, through rock, through magma, down into the core of the world itself. At first, nothing seemed to happen. Then Prime began to shake. On the surface, people stopped what they were doing. The ground trembled beneath their feet. Buildings swayed. Water splashed in glasses. Animals began to panic. Then the earthquake started. Not in one place, everywhere. Across the entire planet, fault lines that had been stable for millions of years suddenly cracked open. Cities shook. Towers fell. Roads split apart like breaking bones. But that was only the beginning. The volcanoes came next. Hundreds of them. Mountains that had been silent for centuries suddenly exploded with fire and ash. Smoke rose into the sky until it blocked out the sun. Rivers of lava poured across the land, destroying everything in their path. In orbit, Admiral, and watched his die. His face was frozen in horror. His hands gripped the console until his knuckles turned white. "No," he whispered. "No, this cannot be happening." But it was happening. It was real. The oceans began to boil. Steam rose in massive columns, mixing with the volcanic ash until the entire planet was covered in a thick black cloud. The temperature on the surface rose by hundreds of degrees in minutes. Nothing could survive it. Nothing did. The process took 6 hours. 6 hours for a civilization that had lasted 10,000 years to die. 6 hours for 8 billion lives to end. 6 hours for the masters of the galaxy to become nothing but ash and memory. When it was over, Prime was a dead rock. Its surface was covered in cooling lava and poisonous gas. Its oceans were gone. Its cities were buried under miles of volcanic debris. Nothing remained. Nothing at all. The surviving watched from their orbital stations and their ships. They could not speak. They could not move. They could only stare at the grave of their world. Then Captain began to broadcast. Her signal went out across all frequencies. It reached every ship in the system. It reached every station. It reached the communications relays that would carry it to every corner of the galaxy. Every species with a receiver would hear her words. "This is Captain of the human vessel Perseverance. Today the has been destroyed. Its cities are gone. Its people are gone. Its power is broken forever." She paused, letting the words sink in. 4 months ago, Admiral attacked my ship. He killed 553 innocent people. He disabled our systems and left us to die in the void. He called us vermin. He said he wanted to teach humanity its place in the galaxy. Her voice grew harder. He was right about one thing. Today, humanity has shown its place, but it is not the place he imagined. We are not prey. We are not vermin. We are the species that refuses to die. We are the species that turns weakness into strength. We are the species that takes your weapons and makes them our own. She stood up and faced the camera directly. Let this be a message to every empire, every civilization, every species that looks at humanity and sees an easy target. We did not want this war. We asked only for peace. We asked only to be left alone. They refused. They laughed at our pain. They celebrated our deaths. Her eyes burned with cold fire. Now look at their world. Look at what remains. Look and remember. This is what happens when you corner humans. This is what happens when you push us too far. This is what happens when you forget that the most dangerous creature in the galaxy is a human with nothing left to lose. She reached for the controls to end the broadcast. Then she stopped. One more thing, to any species listening who has lived under tyranny, who has suffered under their empire, who has lost loved ones to their cruelty. You are free now. The masters are dead. Build your futures, remember your fallen, and never forget who freed you. The broadcast ended. Silence fell over the galaxy. On 1,000 worlds, billions of beings stared at their screens in shock. The ancient and mighty, the rulers of stars, were gone, destroyed by a single human freighter that they had left to die. In the following days, the surviving surrendered unconditionally. They had no choice. Their military was broken. Their leadership was dead. Their empire crumbled like dust. The Perseverance was recovered by human ships that came rushing to investigate the impossible signals they had received. The survivors, 1,829 souls who had endured cold and hunger and death, were taken to safety. The ship itself was never repaired. Instead, it was placed in permanent orbit around Earth, a monument to human courage and human fury. People came from across the galaxy to see it, to touch the hull that had drifted through death, to read the names on the wall of the cargo bay. Captain was celebrated as a hero by many. She was condemned as a monster by others. 8 billion dead, an entire species brought to extinction. There would be debates about her actions for centuries. Was it justice? Was it murder? Was it necessary? Was it wrong? Herself never gave an answer. After the crisis was over, she turned herself in for trial. She faced judgment for the destruction of Prime. The trial lasted 3 years. In the end, she was found not guilty by reason of necessity, but the decision was controversial. It would always be controversial. She lived the rest of her life quietly. She never sought fame or glory. When people asked her about that day, about the moment she gave the order, she would say only one thing. They had a choice. We all have choices. They chose to attack. They chose to kill. They chose to refuse peace. I simply showed them the consequences of those choices. History would remember the perseverance. It would remember the survivors who turned their death sentence into a weapon. It would remember the moment humanity announced its arrival on the galactic stage. Not as prey, not as vermin, but as the species that even the greatest empires learned to fear. The galaxy watched. The galaxy learned. And the galaxy remembered. Never corner a human. Never push them to the edge. Because when they have nothing left to lose, they will take everything from you. Everything.